Hello, fellow seekers and collectors. I'm the Cinema Seeker. Well, guys, the Kenobi trailer has just dropped today, and I want to at least give my thoughts about it because I think, like with many people, Disney Star Wars has either been a huge hit or miss, or maybe both. And I'm kind of in the middle of that. I am not the biggest fan of Disney Star Wars, but I also don't completely hate everything. I like some of the stuff that they've done. I like Mandalorian. I like Jedi Fallen Order. I'm enjoying Rebels. I'm still on season 2, but I am enjoying that show. So it's ultimately one of those things where I don't completely hate Disney Star Wars, but I do hate the sequels, and I was not the biggest fan of the Book of Boba Fett. But in terms of this series, I have been very interested and been wondering how this one was going to be because, well, of course, Ewan himself is coming back. Ewan McGregor is back as Kenobi, and that really did excite me. So there has been kind of a certain level of anticipation and want in this series. And for me, it's a matter of I'm just very happy to see kind of like a story that tells the tale of Kenobi when he was, in hiding and in exile on Tatooine. There's been plenty of comics. I haven't unfortunately read those comics, so I cannot tell you exactly like 100% if they're good or not, or if I liked them at least. But it's one of those things where it's clear that definitely some inspiration is being taken from it, but Disney is giving its own spin, and whoever is working on it, so let's ultimately talk about the trailer. So, of course, we see Tatooine and we see all that. And one of the big interesting things that I found was the fact that, well, they played Duel of the Fates, which was honestly kind of unexpected. I probably should have expected it, but it was cool to hear Duel of the Fates. It's an iconic track, and and in many ways it works because we're going back to technically the prequel slash original trilogy era, so yeah, it's in many ways trying to bridge the gap between those two different eras. Now, of course, one of the big things that people will, of course, pick up on is the fact that, well, there are Inquisitors in this series. Of course, if you have seen Rebels, then you'll know that these Inquisitors are Jedi hunters, and it makes sense while they're here. Why they're here. Sorry about that. Uh, for me, it's nice to see them being included. I don't hate the Inquisitors. I think they're a cool idea. I think it's cool the idea that Darth Vader has this elite team of Inquisitors that hunt down Jedi, and it's not just him. I like the idea of it being not only just Darth Vader, but being other Force users or just people who pretty much can wield a lightsaber, and I like that idea. But just from the trailer alone, it kind of because we got to look at the Grand Inquisitor, and he looks cool in animation, but right now, from the way he looks, ugh, um, he doesn't look horrible, but it does make him look a little weird because I understand what exists in animation sometimes won't always work out in live action, but I kind of feel like maybe they could have done a little bit more to make it look a little less silly or a little less weird in some form. And I think that's the big thing is that he just looks a little strange. I understand animation versus live action, but I feel like there is a healthy balance, or maybe it's just the actor that they got. Same goes with another Inquisitor that has kind of shown up in the trailer. I can't remember all the names because there's a lot of them. And but one of them, if that is who I believe it is, showed up in Rebels, and yeah, again, what works in animation kind of just looks a little funny in live action. And I get that, yeah, Star Wars has some funny designs, but you know how there are just some designs that you can kind of tell, like, just would look a little funky in animation, going from animation to live action. And I kind of feel like that's a little bit there in this trailer. And and that's not on completely 100% of the fault, you know. Now, granted, maybe there were concept art or maybe earlier designs that made it look better, so we don't know. Because, like I said, we also have to remember this has been filmed, I believe, during COVID, so pretty much who knows if there were certain limitations or certain things that they couldn't get or couldn't do. We don't know. I didn't work on the production, so it's one of those things where for me it's and not to mention too it's a simple little trailer, but I ultimately wanted to talk about it because with this series i I really hope it's good, because like I said, Ewan McGregor is coming back. Hayden Christensen is set to come back as well, and then of course, while they didn't show it off in this trailer, we are going to supposed to be getting the Darth Vader Obi-Wan Kenobi rematch. And I hope that they do a good job of that because, like I said, if there's been one criticism that I think to some degree it's a yes and no kind of deal, is that they've been focusing too much on fan service, and to some degree yes, and to some degree no, because it's understandable why certain characters show up. Like if people are gonna try to say like, oh, Cad Bane is just fan service, it's fan service that at least makes sense in the context, especially if you know that Boba Fett and Cad Bane have been villains. Now, granted, I don't think it was as well handled as it could have been, maybe with a couple more episodes, or maybe an entire show actually focused on that instead of just constantly diverting to The Mandalorian, which I did like those episodes, but I want to watch a Boba Fett show for the sake of watching a Boba Fett show. If I want to watch Mando, I go watch The Mandalorian. So, it's one of those things where maybe it could have been done better, and I think it should have been done better. I enjoyed it, but to some degree, but I feel like it could have been better. So with this, I hope that there's none of that, because there's also all these different rumors, like supposedly some people saying that Qui-Gon Jinn might show up, Ahsoka Tano might show up. Who knows? I feel like with Ahsoka it might make sense because again of Rebels and everything. But for me, I really hope that because this is a Kenobi show, I hope that there is a focus on Kenobi. If they want to have some episodes that maybe, like need to build up a character in order for, a satisfying ending, then fine. Or at least, just make sure that Kenobi doesn't feel like a guest in his own show, because that's unfortunately what happened with Boba Fett's show. Is sometimes he felt like he was just a guest star in his own show, and I don't want that for Kenobi, because again, you brought back Ewan McGregor, and I want him to actually be in the show. This is why I'm watching the show. This is pretty much one of the only reasons why I am excited for the show, is because they brought back the original actor. Because as much as I grew up with the original trilogy on Star Wars, as much as I think the prequels are bad films, I do have a soft spot for Revenge of the Sith and that kind of era, because I technically grew up in it. I'm a 2000s kid. I grew up during the 2000s, so I grew up in the Star Wars era where the prequels were the dominant force in media, and Ewan McGregor was Obi-Wan Kenobi, and so I've always had that soft spot for him as Obi-Wan, because honestly, I think he was one of the best aspects of the films, but I also feel like he's just a great actor, and I really like him in the role. He embodies Obi-Wan. So to see him come back is very exciting, and I just cannot wait to see him again. But I also am very worried that Disney might try to, do some fuckery that ends up, bringing down the whole show. We also got some images, which has just been very Kenobi centric, which is pretty much seeing him. You can kind of tell, like, compared to some other pieces of media, or at least they're getting a little bit more secretive with this one, because, again, I think they want to keep as much under wraps and keep it a surprise. So, and it's fine. That's completely fine. But in terms of this show, I am very excited for it, but I'm cautiously optimistic, because I know there's that part of my brain that just wants to say like, don't get excited, be a little bit more cynical, man. Don't you see that Disney's just trying to, get you with your nostalgia? But with this one, it's a little bit harder, because again, this technically Ewan was my childhood, along with Alec Guinness from the original trilogy, because again, I lived through that prequel era where it was nothing but prequel toys and Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones and, the Clone Wars era. So I grew up during that era and I have a soft spot for it. So I hope it'll be good. I can only hope. That's, like I said, that's all we can do, and if it's good, then we praise it. If it's bad, then we, criticize it. But with this, I am hoping for the best. It's just a small little teaser trailer. Just a same with this video. I'm just a little simple video, but I at least wanted to talk about it because I do find it very intriguing that now we are going back to essentially a prequel slash original trilogy era, which you could kind of tell Disney has been really investing in as of late. And I think to some degree that's a good idea because, again, we had the Bad Batch, and then, of course, now we have Kenobi being another bridge between the prequel and the original trilogy era. And I do hope it's good because, like I said, I think we've gotten some good stuff out of that little, like, gap, Rebels, Jedi Fallen Order, The Bad Batch. I've liked those pieces of media, so I'm hoping Kenobi will be a good, or at least if it's flawed, I hope it's an enjoyably flawed show. Like it's something where the good outweighs the bad. Kind of like a No Way Home situation where there's some stuff that can be criticized, but you know what? There's just so much good, and the good that they did was just enough to just completely be like, I can forget all those problems and just love this movie. So I'm hoping that's the way it is with Kenobi, or in better case scenario that I would want is this show is actually well thought out and just well written and done well. And I also hope that there's no continuity fuck ups because last thing we need to do is contradict the original trilogy, which we've already done in the sequels. So I can only hope for the best. May the force be with us, everybody. So, quick little video. I just wanted to talk about the Kenobi trailer. Give me your thoughts on the Kenobi trailer. I thought it was cool. It's a teaser. Not a lot, but at least just a little bit. If there's another trailer and it shows a little bit more, I probably will make another video. But yeah, there's some images out there too. Yeah, I hope for the best, guys, because part of me is excited, but I'm also partly concerned. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next time, guys.